All right, welcome back, everybody. Today we have our very first special guest on the podcast. This is Christian, my friend. We've known him for quite some time now. He has a YouTube channel all about finding a Proverbs 31 wife, right? His YouTube channel has over 4,000 subscribers and over 500,000 views at the moment. So he's doing very well. He's doing very well. Christian, what is a Proverbs 31 wife? Just for the viewers who do not know what this is.
Well, for those who don't know, if you go at the end of the book of Proverbs in the Old Testament, Proverbs 31:10 through 31 describes what the ideal woman is from a biblical standpoint, which gives you God's objective standard for the characteristics that a wife should have, right? She has high moral standards. She's humble. She's respectful. She's supportive. She's helpful. She's kind. She has all the qualities that make her a wife and a mother. And those are the internal qualities that you should model after when you decide to look for a woman. And that is something that every man should consider if they're serious about spending their life with a woman.
For sure, for sure. I'm gonna link Christian's channel down below and his stuff in the description. Make sure you go down, check that out, everybody. All right, go over, subscribe to his channel. But my first question that was coming to my mind, because I'm still sort of new to Christianity. I'm only in it like 6 months or so. Would it be around about 6 months, right? And I still have a lot of questions. I'm not pretending like I know everything here. I'm learning every single day. So this is why we want to bring on guests that are way more knowledgeable and have a lot more information. So we're going to be, keep on bringing on loads of guests each week that have a lot more knowledge. But a question that was on my mind was in regards to finding this godly woman, right? So we see in the Bible, God created Eve for Adam, right? Does God create a specific woman for everybody? And if so, do you believe these people are like bound to come together? Or is it something that you almost have to earn? Like, you know, you have to almost, be the man to get this girl? Or do you think these people will come together anyways? Does that make sense?
Very good question. I often hear guys ask questions similar to the topic: where do I find a good woman? How do I get a good woman? Is she destined to fall into my lap, kind of thing?
Mm,
And I believe this is really based on the man you become first and foremost, right? If you are not righteous, if you don't see God's righteousness, then you're not even going to be able to identify or let alone even accept or appreciate the qualities of a good woman. Likewise, if she doesn't have those qualities, how could she appreciate or accept a man who's godly? It has to be mutual. So it's kind of like guys saying, yeah, I want all these business opportunities, but then they don't put any work in. And they just think that they're going to get a knock at the door from a news agent saying, we're going to put your content out for the world to see. It doesn't, that's luck. But if you actively learn more about relationships, you put yourself out there, you go out there and meet good women, that's going to be better for you, because the Bible tells us in Proverbs 18:22, whoso findeth a wife findeth a good thing and obtaineth favor of the Lord. Now, the key there is at the first bit of the verse: he who findeth. It doesn't say he who makes, he who builds, he who fixes, he who changes, prays and hopes. No, he who finds a wife. A good woman must already come together with the qualities to make her a wife. Likewise, a good man, you come together ready to be a husband. It's that simple. You don't go to a job interview and they're like, yeah, we'll kind of train you and teach you. You have to have the qualifications to begin with. Then you can work with that. Okay. You might meet a woman who perhaps she wants to be a wife and a mother. She's been misled by feminism. Remember, men originally brought women into feminism, and it has to be men who lead them out of it. So of course, as a good man, you meet a woman, she's somewhat feminine and she wants to learn more about these qualities. You can lead her and guide her, absolutely. But she already has the qualities, the ability, she's willing, the willingness, right? So you need to go out there and meet women. You need to put yourself out there. And you can't just expect God to just drop it in your lap. God's not going to drop in all the money you need for your business and things like that. God's already given us Christ, who's paid for our sins. You've got your free ticket to heaven. You've got eternal salvation. That's what matters most. The rest is up to us. Now, we're saved by faith alone. Works is simply to glorify God as a byproduct of our faith and to help and serve others. So if you live a righteous life and you're sacrificial in what you do and you put yourself out there, you're going to meet women. And then the key is using your knowledge to divide between a woman who isn't wife material and one who is. That's really all it comes down to. And I think as a man, if you put yourself out there in person, whether in social networking, you go to modest social venues, activities, utilize your free time to interact with people that you're compatible with, you are going to increase your odds of being introduced to traditional women with the same values. You might maybe interact with some friends who have sisters or cousins or someone that's a woman. You think all of our ancestors prior to this generation, how did they all meet? By interacting in person, right? Go to join activities in your community, charity events, non-profit organizations, volunteering, farmers market, town fair, book market, food market, you name it. Go to Christian venues, Christian charity events, Christian seminars, a good biblically sound church in your area. That's where you're going to meet people that have the same values, right? Online, you can meet people online too. A lot of couples have social media, even dating apps if you use it righteously. And there's exceptions as well, right? You could meet a woman on vacation. You're visiting a new town, you're visiting a new country, you're going on an adventure, she's doing the same. You just match. You could be going out to the grocery store, gas station, whatever, walking your dog, it happens. Coffee shop in your area, at work, an internship at the workplace, school, university, college, it does happen as well. And that's really it. And I think if you make that a priority and you put yourself out there enough and you have enough interactions, you go through the no's, you'll eventually get a yes. Because there is billions of men and women out there. And all you need is one woman who shares mutual chemistry and compatibility with you. That's it. That's all it is. There's no secret to it. And I think if you first and foremost seek God and his righteousness, the rest will be added into you because you'll have that innate desire to go out there. You want to lead a woman, you want to protect and provide for her, you want to have a legacy and have children passed down your bloodline. You want to serve your community, you want to honor God. And this desire to have a family, it's righteous. God said in Genesis 2:18, it is not good that the man should be alone. I will make a help meet suitable for him. So yes, God does have a woman for every man. But if you're sitting there watching porn, jerking off, I hate women, they're all the same, women can't love men, and all this rubbish that comes out, which is just male feminism, then yeah, I don't think God is going to place you in situations where you're going to meet such women. That's why it says in the book of Romans, when you turn from God, he gives you up to your own delusions. You reap what you sow, right? Galatians 6:7. That's what it's all about. So first and foremost, if you get yourself right with God, and then you take action as you would do with anything else in your health, in your wealth, it's going to come about. How did all of you guys meet? It wasn't an accident. You all respectively put yourself out there, put in the work, you made it a priority, and then it creates these opportunities to happen. And then right place, right time, you're ready for it. Preparation means opportunity. You make your own luck. That's where I stand on meeting a good woman. It's how I met mine,
Hmm.
right? Hope that answers your question.
Yeah. And if you boys have a question, or do you want me to just keep asking?
No, I have one question. So, let's say for people who have dated in the past, who have dated women who aren't dead, Proverbs 31 woman, they've been hurt, whatever, and they still have this like past trauma from relationships. How do you think they can get over it and develop a secure attachment style where they're ready for the next woman, where they're ready to trust and love and, not let that past stuff affect them in their future relationships?
When people are usually holding on to the past, it's because they are trying to take matters into their own hands. if they just simply see that as a learning curve, this person's gone, this person doesn't want me anymore, they were never right for me, that should be enough for you to let go, because they're gone. In fact, it should be a relief. They're not going to waste my time anymore. I didn't have kids with them. I'm not a single dad. I didn't get AIDS from them. It could have been worse, but I'm still standing and they're gone. I've got the rest of my life to find someone better who is suitable for me. What a blessing. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, I will repay. If someone's wronged you and they've not turned to God, hey, that's between them and God. But you have to forgive them and then let go. And I would suggest for people who are still holding on to an ex, go through your phone, through your social media, delete them off of everything, delete all the pictures, memories from them, and then make new memories. Be around good friends, be around good men, right? Build something with your life as a man. Because a lot of this comes from inaction. You reminisce on the past and you get into sin when you're lazy and you're not getting things done. If you were busy growing your business or your career or doing important things with your time that's productive,
Kevin, you're muted.
oh, I think the Wi-Fi
Yeah.
went there a second.
You froze for a second. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think if you make it a priority to just live an intentional life, everything you do, it has meaning. You have an end goal behind it and it's righteous. You won't worry about the past. It's really a selfish thing to be obsessed with that person that wronged you. I'm sure all of us have wronged someone in the past accidentally when we were younger. And in their book, they probably would point at us and say, oh, they're evil, they're nasty. And they haven't seen the growth and the development, right? So it's not our place to hold on to, I want them to be punished. I want them to suffer the same way I suffered. Maybe they turn their life around. At one point, that was someone you loved. That was someone you respected. It doesn't have to turn into hatred. I'm a sinner, you're a sinner, we're all a sinner. You're going to cast the first stone. That's between them and God. So I think when you see it from that perspective and you leave it into God's hands and you pray to them, you ask God, like, hey, I do forgive them, just give them a good life, and you really mean that, and you're focused on yours, you'll be fine. But remove anything, any residue from your life that reminds you of them. That's very important as well. And then also filling in your knowledge gap to add to that, Jules, because a lot of guys, they are going off of the same programming, the same information. They think that, okay, I've been hurt by a woman, or women will say the same thing, I've been hurt by a man, and then they have an attitude where they're all the same. And it's just really a coping mechanism. So I would say really putting yourself out there, meeting new people, and especially around godly people, and realizing that there is honorable people of the opposite gender that are not out to get you, that's very healthy as well. Because a lot of guys, they go through a breakup or something bad happens, they hop on the internet, and the first thing they see is just red-pilled manosphere content that just demonizes the entire opposite gender. And there's all this negative talk about women, and it's like, that doesn't get you anywhere. It is important to be aware that there are women you should avoid, but that's it. That's as far as it goes. Then the rest should be focusing on meeting a better woman. And that's it. And a lot of people, they get too selfish with their life. And you could even argue the opposite of love isn't hate, it's the self. It's too much selfishness. This has come about in the last 20 years. Everybody's so me. And it's such a problem. 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago, 19-year-old men and women, that on their mind was, I want to get married, have a family, and serve my country and serve God. That was the mindset. Now it's like, oh, I'm me, till I'm 35, then maybe I'll find someone. See how that works out for you. And in the meantime, of those 35 years that you're single, or you're just hooking up, whatever you're doing with that lifestyle, you are creating a behavioral pattern that is suited to your own needs. So you start to think that I'm above everyone. I don't need a woman. I don't need children. I'm out for myself. I'm a lone wolf. That never existed. You were always a member of a community. You had a role to fill and you served. And you would find love and happiness in giving to others. And as a result of that giving, you'd receive love too. And I think if you change your entire lifestyle from me to what I can give to others, you won't be bitter. You won't be holding on to the past. It's nothing. It doesn't matter anymore. There's so much in the future to look forward to. God's behind you. You have an amazing life to live, and these things really wouldn't matter. So it really comes down to the values that someone has. If they are godless, yeah, they're going to be very, very, very bitter. But if you're godly, hey, it doesn't matter. This life is this compared to eternity. So it's perspective.
Yeah.
What you said about like a lot of guys going to like 35 and just like not focusing on like finding a good woman, just focusing on themselves. I see that a lot with like self improvement with a lot of the young guys. They're all about like just waiting it out, waiting out, waiting it out, and then they get to like 35, like you said, and it's like, was it all worth it? You know, it's so selfish. And a lot of guys, I've seen comments as well where it's like guys say like, I do self improvement for me. It's all about me. You know, it's about uh like becoming a better version of me. And I think that what they should rather focus on is improving yourself for your future wife, for your future family, to serve your community better. That's what I truly believe. I believe success is not like having millions in the bank. I think true wealth is having like a beautiful, like loving family, you know, finding that beautiful wife, raising a beautiful family, you know, like preserving the traditional values. I think that is a key part of success.
Absolutely, because we were never built to be alone. No functioning societies have ever survived that way. As I mentioned earlier, Genesis 2:18, it's not good that the man should be alone. I'll make a helpmeet suitable for him. You know, men and women we're made for each other. We're complementary. It's just a beautiful thing. And that's why men and women, we've always been here for each other, and that's it. So we're not meant to live alone for a lengthy amount of time. And if you do so, you run into serious problems mentally, emotionally. You begin to deteriorate. This is where these insecurities come about, or desperation. You know, men and women always used to marry young because it gives you a different outlook on why you're living. As you mentioned, Zal, you believe that having a wife and kids, that's the reason why you do it for. You all this improvement, all the growing. That's the same attitude I have, and it's exactly what I teach. When your mindset is, okay, I'm going to build my business and my career, I'm going to take care of myself so I can serve my wife and children. I can be more engaged with them, more present with them. If I'm healthy, I get to be with my grandchildren, right? If they get attacked, I'm strong enough to defend them. If I build myself up righteously, they have an inheritance, right? It says in Proverbs that a righteous man leaves an inheritance for his children's children. So this is thinking in terms of, 2-3 generations, not what am I doing on the weekend kind of thing. And when you live for your wife and children, you live sacrificially, it changes everything for you. Even when you're single, for you guys, I'd recommend that. Your attitude should be, what man am I going to be for my future wife and my future children? Because one day your kids, they're going to tell a story about you. Was dad absent or was dad present? And they're going to have a very simple black and white answer to people. Don't be like my dad, or you want to be exactly like him. So you can leave an impact that can inspire others, or you can leave an example that they shouldn't follow. And that's all on the free will that God gave you. It's really, really important to get that right. The same way right now, if you're single and you look at women out there, you'd want your future wife to have the same attitude. I should be loyal to my future husband. What wife am I going to be to that? What are you giving your wife? If you're expecting something of her, then you should be willing to offer the same. And you do want a good woman by your side, especially when you're young and you're building yourself up as a man. Because you're going to get much further having a good woman by your side who will nurture and support you, right? And especially when, as a man, part of you being a leader and your authority head in the home is you give instructions to your wife and children, and especially to your wife. You give her things to help you with. If you're not doing anything with your life, there's no program for her to hop on. How can she help you? And most women that are godly, they want to serve their man. They want to help him. They want him to look good. They want to represent him, right? And you can always judge a man by the quality of woman he has on his arm. You can fake it in business, in health, right? 'Cause some guys work out for the wrong reasons, right? For vanity's sake, or, oh, I was bullied as a kid. Now I'm going to show them. I'm going to teach them a lesson, right? Or I'm going to make money because that person said that I could never do it. That's not the right reason to do it. And good women know that. There's guys that will hide behind their success, they'll hide behind their looks. So it's really the values you have here. Because the woman you choose to be with, that's how I always judge a guy. Oh, this is my woman. She's slept with 50 men. The guy doesn't have any standards for himself. How could you raise your children to say, this is the mother of, the very simple metric is this. If you would not be proud to have a daughter exactly like her, don't marry her. That's it. If you would not be proud for your son to turn out exactly like you, then you've got some work to do. That's the standard. And when you uphold that, everything else follows. Because you cannot simply redo it in relationships. You can't. Oh, I wasted 10 years, 15 years of my life with the wrong woman, and we had 3 kids together. How do you redo that? You can't rewind time. All this talk about red pill, men peak in their 30s and 40s. Yeah, financially speaking. But why is it that in the military, they choose men aged 18 to 25 over the 35-year-old men? They can still choose them, but they're going to choose the 18 to 25-year-olds. That's when your virility peaks. You're most fertile, you're the most youthful, you. Same thing for women. Women peak at their late teens, 20s. So that's really when men and women should be getting married, and they can enjoy the rest of their life together and grow old. Right?
Yeah.
And everybody's getting that wrong today, unfortunately. This is the first generation, and we're already seeing signs. A lot of men and women online are looking for answers, and they're turning from.
Yeah.
What you just said reminded me of I spoke about this with a friend of mine. Shout out to Brino. I think he probably watches this. We spoke about this, and he was like, yeah, like he's like early 20s to like mid 20s, and was like, yeah, I want to get married soon because, first off, you have that area of your life away, right? Like when you're a young man and you're kind of deluded, right? And you're always like chasing casual hookups, more relationships, whatever, right? It's draining. It's like takes so much time away. And so he's like, okay, when I have like my wife, I have one woman, then I don't have to worry about relationships anymore, right? And it was also like the aspect of what you just said, building a life together with your woman, which I think is so much more beautiful, right? Like when you look back when you're old and you have your children and grandchildren and you've built a life together throughout your entire life from when you were young, right? That is so much more beautiful to me looking back on that together with your wife than building your life alone and then adding your wife onto it, right? Like pulling together, like going through all these hardships, up and downs, right? Like that's how life is. But together with another person, you overcome these relationship issues, you overcome these family issues, right? And you're still together at the end of the day. You're still together when you're old. I think that is something that's way better to strive for than saying, okay, I'm gonna go lone wolf until I'm 35, and then now I'm a high value man. I can finally attract good women, right?
And even then, with the whole I'm a high value man, it's like, oh, so you're 35. What are you doing? You're giving them money. That's what gold diggers want. Genuine women do not care. Genuine women, in fact, they'd want to build with you to prove to you that they're loyal, right? And they don't care. Do you make somewhat money? Are you able to take care of them to some degree? Sure, but it's more importantly the man you're with, right? This is why there's guys in prison and their woman's waiting for them, right? And then there's multi-millionaires who marry a gold digger and she's cheating on him with the gardener, right? And you're going, what? But it's true. Obviously, there's also immoral men who make a lot of money and they settle, they marry the wrong woman, and now their ego gets to their head, and then they want to cheat, which is likewise disgusting. But the whole high value thing is a scam. The whole self-improvement thing is a scam. You wouldn't hear your granddad saying, "Yeah, kids, I was self-improving," and smack you across the face for saying that. It's not even, "Oh, I'm self-improving. What is wrong with you?" No, I'm just being a man. I'm doing what's required of me. It's my duty. End of story. And this comes from self, because men don't have a woman by their side. It's all you have is you. But if your attitude from a young age was, "I'll get a wife," or you got back in the day, you married at 20 years old, you have to put food on the table. It jumpstarts you into action. You can't play games anymore with your life. You have to be very intentional. You have responsibilities now. It gives you a reason to work hard. It gives you a reason to be serious with your life, because now you've got other people under your wing that you are responsible for alone. And that's really what men crave, that responsibility. And I think a lot of boys are stuck in this perpetual like teenagehood kind of thing into their 30s and 40s, and they just don't grow up because they're not given these things. You know, biblically speaking, you were not considered a man if you were not married and had children. Because people, they're like, okay, fine, what's wrong with this guy then? Was he promiscuous? Is he selfish? Right? Is he just lazy? He wants to take from society. And this is how it's always been. So, yeah, it's really important to get that right.
Yeah. I was thinking this recently, and I was thinking like a lot of this self-improvement stuff, just having this self-improvement mindset, it almost causes like mental illness. The way how most of these guys are just thinking about it. Like I fell for this trap when I was going through self-improvement. You know, I had this very weird mindset that I developed going through it. I always had to felt like I had to be better than people, and I had to, you know, prove a point. I had to be stronger. Had to make more money. All this, you know, and it's like, what are you doing it for? At the end of the day, you know, who are you improving for? If it's for yourself, like that is very egotistical, bro. What is the point? What is the end goal? You know, I think we should do all things, you know, for God. What's that Bible quote? Do all things for the glory of God, right? And if you're not doing things for your family, you know, your future family, your wife, your future kids, building, setting up for the future, you know, leaving the place better than how it was. It's like, what are you really doing it for? A lot of young people nowadays are wrapped up, just like how Christian said, like they're all wrapped up in themselves, self, and I believe it causes a lot of mental illness, and it's driving them further away from, I believe, having a successful marriage in the future. What actionable steps would you give to young men who want to find a Proverbs 31 wife that they don't know what to do? They want to become much more of a righteous man.
Yeah, first and foremost, study your Bible, King James Version. Make sure that you learn how to rightly divide scripture and study how the Bible's actually written and for whom in the different segments and time periods. Because I see so many Christians who they first come to Christ and they're like, oh yeah, I'm not saved because I sinned today. I need to whip myself and repent daily. And that's repentance from in the old Greek, it simply meant change of mind from unbelief to belief. And when all you need to do is understand that you go from I didn't believe in Christ to I do, and I accept the free gift that He died on the cross one time. That's it. There's no need for a priesthood, for sacraments. I need to go to church every Saturday. No, you're saved once and for all. That's it. If you believe in faith, unless you believe in vain. But if you truly believe, that's it. You're saved. You can still sin tomorrow. Obviously, it will grieve you, but you're still saved because we can't save ourselves. And I think that's the foundation to start with. Then obviously learning more about relationships, health, doing something with your life as a man, because obviously everybody has their unique skills and talents. You can use that for good, use that to serve others and live a sacrificial life, and then put yourself out there. Because once you have the foundation, once you make righteousness a thing and you understand God's watching, you live differently. You know, why would God bless you with an opportunity to meet a good woman if you're a porn addict or you're a cheater or you don't have an intention to marry? You're just gonna come across women that are just as messed up as you. And even if you come across a great woman, she's gonna weed you out at the beginning, or when your behavior stops adding up because you were faking it. So first and foremost, I'd say just focus on righteousness, and then in your own accord, learn more about relationships. Join my program, and you'll be sorted. Right? So, and I think that's the first step, because there are so many different sects that have come out. Oh, I'm a Stoic, and I'm using this tactic and strategy, and it's like tactics and strategies are to defeat an enemy in war, not to build a lifelong commitment with a woman you love and honor. You need principles. You need a foundation built on truth and love, which only comes from God. And if you get that wrong, you'll get everything else wrong in your life. So that's first and foremost the most important thing. Seek Christ, and then you take it from there.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. It's a very good point. So let's say we get this wife, right? My question is, does the devil tempt relationships, or how does he tempt relationships, right? And what should we do about it?
Yeah, the devil does tempt you as well from time to time. Doubt, fear, insecurities, old habits, old behaviors, the what ifs. And usually this comes about from thoughts, wrong actions. When you start hiding things or not being genuine, or perhaps you're doing everything right, but there's a misunderstanding and you take it the wrong way, that's when the devil can get into your ear and make you misjudge them or think badly of them. They're out to get you. And it always starts in the mind. This is why it tells us in scripture that God gives us a sound mind, peace of joy. But fear and worry and all these things are not of God. That's how you know it's from the devil. So all you have to do is simply stand firm in your faith. You just, the second you have a negative thought come in, or no, you neglect it, you reject it. And that's basically it. And I would say more importantly, as it says in scripture, confess your sins one to another. If you're having bad thoughts or you're struggling with things or temptations, sit down and tell your spouse about it, because you don't want to hold anything back from them. Because when you do and you withhold love, when they give love to you, you don't even want to receive it properly. You think they're probably lying or they're hiding something. You always want that line to be completely open every day. And vulnerability is not a weakness. Fear, worry, ego, that's a weakness. But you openly stating what's happening, as long as you do it in a calm, peaceful, masculine way, that's how it should be done. And then you invite them to do the same as well when they struggle with these things, and you can talk about it, right? So especially if it's old habits, bad behaviors, things like that, that's just simply a habit, because love is an action. It's something you pour into the relationship daily. So even if the devil is tempting you with all these bad thoughts and the what ifs, you come to your spouse with these problems. You tell them, right? A lot of these problems people have in relationships, they want to ask me, what about this? And you want to sort out your problems, go talk to the person you were with. It's you and her, right? And that's it. And you just hold them close and you share everything to them.
Yeah.
There's no
I have
secret to
more
it.
of a personal question for you, Christian.
Tell me.
Like you're a Christian dating coach, right? You teach men how to get like a Proverbs 31 woman. But like most dating coaches in a traditional sense, right? When you think about them, they almost have to prove so much to the people they want to coach, right? They have to do like day game and cold approaching and get with tons of women to like show the people that they're you can you guys hear me?
I'm listening. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah,
think
you're still here,
Okay,
bro.
it just glitched for me. Just literally. Like normal dating coaches, right? I think they live a quite unfulfilled life where they constantly have to like chase women to prove to their followers and their clients, like, look, I can do this and I can teach this to you as well, right? But you have almost the exact opposite approach, right? You are a Christian, like a righteous dating coach, right? So what was your journey to that, right? Like how did you find that purpose, that calling that you wanted to help men be righteous men and find like a good woman, right?
The relationships, yeah, going back, I've been learning about relationships, I'd say, for about 10 years now. Going back 25 now, so 15. Growing up in Spain as a foreigner, I always had to, learn the language. You're in a different culture, you're around different people, so you always have to exert more communication, learn more, put more in. And I just couldn't fit in with the crowd because I wasn't one of them. Different culture, which was fine. So I had to learn more about people. And I never did it out of vengeance or I want to get back at them. I just wanted to understand them more. And then growing up, luckily I had a family where it was traditional. My mum was at home, my dad worked. I had that. But as I got older, I started to realize my parents didn't have the relationship that they should have. They didn't communicate properly, despite my dad being very successful, my parents having everything together. There was communication issues. They stopped really loving each other and dating each other and courting each other. And they kind of almost settled in a way. And then I looked outside and saw growing up friends, so-and-so's parents get divorced, cousins, this and that. And I'm sitting there thinking, these are the 30, 40, 50-year-old people that are very successful and are running the world. And behind closed doors, their lives are shit. Excuse my French, but their lives are terrible. How can I possibly take any word of advice from them? This is not right. There has to be a solution here. And I don't want this to be me. And I want to figure this out. So when I get it right, I can help other people. And that was around the same time where, at school, girls would hit on me. I would get approached and I was like, okay, women like me. But then I was like, I would be needy or I'd be insecure. I didn't know how to behave because my father never bothered to tell me. All my dad said was study and work hard because it's what worked for him. Never once had a conversation with me about women, about staying away from porn, about don't jerk off. Luckily, I never hooked up, I never slept around, I never did those things. But I saw a lot of men who did, and I was very observant. So I took my time and I just immersed myself in relationships, buying books, watching seminars, studying, whether it was getting rejected or me rejecting women, figuring out behavioral patterns, learning about values. And got to the point where I was 18 and I accepted Christ, say around October 2016, picked up the Bible for the first time. And that's when it really deepened all of my knowledge. From then on, I spent more years studying and learning. And when I kind of had it figured out, I started the YouTube channel. And that was it. People started reaching out to me. And people seemed to enjoy the help. So I just continued on. Wrote the book. Now I've got my relationship mastery, the online course, and all the rest. And that was it. And I just put into practice what I teach. Came across my woman, and the rest is history. And I want men to have that. I think young men, if they are taught from an early age, it will greatly better their lives. And I was very fortunate to prioritize that and make relationships something very important to me. I just really immersed myself into it and just studied it for so many years that you end up seeing all the ins and outs, all the perspectives, But the one thing that ties it all together is righteousness. Love times righteousness equals relationships. And it's the essence of everything. Because you often hear people say, yeah, the 3 pillars of masculinity, health, wealth, relationships. And I do agree. And it may be a bias, but I do believe relationship is the principal one. Because if you're sick, but you have a family that loves you, from relationships, you're okay. If you're broke and you're in a wheelchair, but your family loves you, from relationships, you're okay. If you make all the money in the world, but you come home to a gold digger, all of a sudden that wealth doesn't mean anything. If you're in amazing shape and you come home, likewise, your wife and kid do not love and respect you, it wasn't for anything. But you see, you can build up your wealth. You can make more money. Health-wise, you can fix that. You can learn more and be healthy because that's just related to you. But relationship-wise, if you get that wrong and you don't have anyone in your life, you're really going to be alone. And we are not meant to be alone. And I believe if people prioritize that first from an early age, even if you came from a broken or dysfunctional home, if you just make that a priority, seek righteousness, and then start networking with the right people and you build those bonds, you create new opportunities. And once you get relationships right first, you actually have more chances to, okay, now I can take care of my health. Now I'll take care of my wealth because I'm doing it for the people I love from the relationships. You're doing it for your family, you're doing it for your wife, you're doing it for your kids. And it sets the foundation straight. Because there's no point, I'm going to build a business for me. Yeah, I'm going to get jacked for me. Even if you didn't have a relationship, if you were in the army, for example, or you had a security job, you do it for the job. You do it for the people that you need to help, which is still from relationships. You still have to serve them, right? So it's always doing everything sacrificially, which is why with everything you do, consider how it's going to affect your relationships. Because at the end of the day, when you're old and frail, the only thing that's going to matter is the memories you made and the good people you have in your life. Do you have your wife by your side, your kids, your grandchildren? That's going to be it. That's going to be the key. It's the legacy, it's the bloodline, it's the family. And that has to be the priority. That's the priority that I made in my life. I just obsessed about relationships until I figured it out through trial and error. And the Bible is what really gave me most of the answers, because it ties it all together. Because I did learn from a lot of these coaches and such. Some of them have good advice, Tony Robbins, some of them Corey Wayne, even some that were new age. You could kind of say David Dada. Some of his stuff's good, but his book, The Way of the Superior Man, some of it's good, but then the rest is just new age. You see, you have to kind of be careful. So you're getting some answers, because even in Red Pill, sometimes they will throw in like a nugget, something that is true. But if you don't see it through God's lens, you're going to take that and misuse it. So it all goes back to the Word of God, and He gives you the blueprint for how you should live. And when I found that, with everything I knew, it just made sense to me. And that's it. I didn't want to.
Beautiful answer.
I never wanted to see what my parents had. Because then you look around and it's like, how many couples do that? You're married 15, 20, 25, 30 years. Oh yeah, we're so happy. Well, you're married for the kids. What? You're married for each other, not for your children. Your children come through you. They're not for you. And children should only ever be born from the love between a mother and a father. And this is why it's not you're first and foremost a husband and a wife. That's the best gift you can give your kids. Parents that love each other. Parents that are in love with each other. Because then kids see that. Eventually they do. Your kids will figure, anything you're trying to hide, your kids will figure it out. Oh, I can't go to mum and dad for this advice because they did it wrong. And then what the kids do, they go on the internet and they got red pill girls that got feminism. Whereas if you had the proper blueprint from the home, you wouldn't look elsewhere. You wouldn't spend 10, 15, 20 years trying to figure it out, because you were taught it from an early age, as you're taught everything else, how to walk, how to read, how to write, the basics. That's what it should be, a basic. You'll slowly learn you're slowly being taught from an early age. And that's it. It's just part of you. And then you go about your life and you sort it. That's how it should be, but it isn't. And that's why it was so important for me. And I want other people to understand it too. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Good answer.
Yeah. What would you say to the guys that don't believe traditional marriages can work nowadays? I hear a lot of red pill guys talking about, oh, you can't have a stay-at-home wife nowadays just because of how, society is set up. Because me personally, I don't want my girl to be out working. Personally, I would much prefer to have a traditional stay-at-home wife, and I would like to make that work.
Yeah, I think because the problem with the red pill is it's the opposite of feminism, so it does fall into these 50-50 relationships, right? But there are some red pill guys that do want a woman that stays at home, but they don't want her to stay at home because they love her and they want to give her a good life. They want her to stay at home because they're afraid that she's going to cheat, because that's how they see women, right? So it all comes down to intention. But for the guys who think that it's a bad thing, try and switch roles and tell me how that works for you, right? You often hear, like with feminism, women say, I'd never submit to a man. But then it's like, you look at all these romance movies they make and all this stuff, and it's like, how do they portray the guys? Direct, confident, assertive. He's calm, he's masculine, he's suave, he's seductive. And it's like, even in the bedroom, what do women like? They like a guy that's dominant, right? But what do men like? We like a woman that is submissive. So at the most primal level, the most intimate level, the roles are already established from God. Men lead, women follow. Men dominate, women are submissive. And it works complementary. But that's built on trust and intimacy, not from control or abuse, as most men get it wrong. So when you zoom out to the roles of how you would live together, one's going to lead, one's going to follow. And if you kind of give that up to the woman and make her be the man, it hardens her. It strips her away from her femininity and it damages her. I was reading an article the other day how when communism came about in China in the 1950s, they made the women, they put them out to do all the men's work in the fields and stuff like that. Most of those women rebelled because they just couldn't do it. Most of them ended up contracting diseases. When you look at men across the board, most women do not get into manual labor. Their bodies, their anatomy is not built for it. Their hormones, their anatomy cannot do it. They get sick. They lose their fertility, right? They lose their periods, right? So it's very clear that men and women are different. Women are built for softer work in the home, where they're protected, where they're safe, nurturing, serving their husband and children. That should be the goal. And guys who think that's a wrong thing, fine, you go out there and get yourself a 50-50 feminist and split everything, and you be a little bit feminine and tell me how that works out for you. You know, the proof is in the pudding. And then you look at men that have it, men and women who have it traditionally, and you see how happy they are. But more importantly, you have to learn about the roles, because a lot of men also are not taught what it means to be a leader and a protector and a provider. They see it through a red pill lens as, this is, oh, I'm in slavery, or I have to do this to a woman that doesn't love me, so they don't want to. I guarantee you, if you go out there and find a good, godly woman, that's going to be the only thing on your mind. How can I take care of her? How can I keep her safe? How can I give her a good life? As it says in Ephesians 5:22, husbands, love your wives sacrificially, as Christ did and gave himself up for the church, right? It's that's written, right? And a woman is only going to submit to you if you lead her in the first place. She's physically weaker than you. She needs to protect herself. She needs to know if you are a righteous man. But more importantly, you can't control the role that she's in. You can only influence and lead by your own actions, right? It's your job as a man to love your wife, and it's God's job if he needs to tweak her or change her or correct her in some way, right? The rest you leave up to God. But if you stay in your role and you follow after masculinity righteously, as long as the woman you're with finds you attractive and you have the same values, sooner or later, the love that you have for her, it's going to shape her and mold her, because she'll realize that, okay, this actually works. There's many such cases like that. Even the same way in scripture, it says that if a woman has a husband who's an unbeliever, she can win him over by her submissiveness, by her godly behavior, by her kindness. Love conquers all in the end, even the most hardest of hearts, right? So if you learn about your role as a man and you stick to it, because that's what you can control, you will impact people properly. If they're godly, they're going to respond to that and they'll react to it appropriately. If they're godless, they'll get upset, defensive, and they'll leave you. Either way, you protected yourself because you lived truly. You didn't go out to hurt anyone or abuse anyone. You lived by what was right. And that's the most principal thing. So if guys really think it's wrong to live that way, try the lifestyle that you think is right and get back to me in 10 years when you wasted that. Tell me how it worked out for you.
I've got a question about shit tests. That's a very common topic, like within the red pill and stuff in the manosphere. I want to know, like, what's the best way for us as Christian men to handle these quote unquote shit tests? What would be your advice?
Well, when you're talking about shit tests, tell me a little bit more about that. What do you mean by shit tests?
So, like, when girls, like, if your girl doesn't, if you haven't been dating your girl for like an extended amount of time, she's testing your character, your integrity as a man. Like, there'll be little like pokes and prods to see how you react to things. See, are you gonna react like emotionally, or like are you gonna actually like remain calm and, you know, solve the situation if it does come up? Because I see so many different debates about shit tests and stuff. So I just want to hear what you have to say about it.
Well, first things first, it's understanding the difference between a genuine woman, a righteous woman, and a godless woman. The same way as a man, if you're genuine, when you test a woman, you're just trying to find out if she's wife material and if she upholds that. You don't play mind games or little tactics. You do it in a genuine way. Now, what do red pill guys do when they try and filter out a woman? They play all these little games with her. They're trying to pull back and they're trying to like manipulate her. That's not love. So you first have to understand that disrespect is not a test. Abusive behavior or controlling, manipulative actions are not a test. Now, Jesus said you'll know them by their fruits. So genuine women who are serious about marriage, they will do their due diligence in filtering out men who are incompatible with them, immoral men who are not worthy of being a husband. So yes, a woman will have to gain clarity on who you are, but it's how she does it, because she's looking for confidence and safety. Are you strong enough? Are you hiding behind your looks, or the success you claim to have? Are you truly the man you say you are, or are you faking it? And of course, can she feel safe around you? Are you honest? Are you abusive? Are you controlling? If she's in danger, you're going to protect her. Are you going to stand up for yourself? So it's really how she goes about doing it. Because to understand what a test is, initially when you meet a woman and you're a stranger, yes, she's going to ask you quality questions to see who you are, right? Because her goal is to find, are you a righteous man? Are you suitable to be a husband and a father? That's what she's thinking. The same way as a man, you're thinking, what would she be like as a wife and a mother? Whereas when you go back to the days when you were lustful or red pill or whatever, you didn't think about that. You're like, how can I look cool in her eyes so I can get her with me? It's a whole different mindset. For a woman to submit to you, you have to be righteous. So she's going to test your compatibility by asking quality questions, right? What are your thoughts on marriage? What are your thoughts on children? What do you think about this, and that? Based on the answers you give, she's going to know what you like, right? She's going to observe patterns in your behavior. If you claim to be masculine and confident, and then you start showing up as insecure or cowardly, that's how she's going to test mostly, initially, just by observing. She's also going to look at chemistry-wise, do you actually find her attractive? Do you want to spend quality time with her? Do you enjoy dating her? Do you make plans for the both of them? Do you want to be intimate with her and connected? Or are you just kind of settling for her and she's not a priority? She's going to look at that to test what your intentions are. Of course, she's also going to use playful banter with you, be humorous, flirt with you, tease you a little bit in a love is playful and fun in a good way. Because there are guys out there who are bitter and they're very structured, and a woman's being playful and they think that she's trying to offend him. So they're going to try and stand up for themselves, because how dare she speak to her like that? So if she's flirting with you in a sweet way when you've just met her, that's not a bad thing, right? And then obviously this will go deeper. If you as a man are who you say you are, and you are calm, you are confident, and the questions she asks you about compatibility, your values, what you're looking for, if you both mesh with that, she finds you attractive, she's going to want to get to know you. Now, when you start showing weakness as a man, for example, being effeminate, being lustful, she sees that you have one-sided interest, that you're structured with your words, you're taking all your time to text her back, or you're trying to manipulate her, or she spots red flags with you, right? She wants a family and you don't. Just completely different values, or you overstep her boundaries, you keep violating that or hurting her. Then she's going to start to become aware that maybe this guy is weak. So that's when you get into a relationship and the girl starts to have digs at you. Now she starts to tease you a little bit more. She starts to prod you a little bit more because you've shown weakness. So a woman will match and mirror how you're showing up to the relationship, right? If she's righteous. If you're honorable and you lead her properly and you are who you say you are, there really isn't going to be testing in your relationship past initially when you're getting to know each other. Now, if you start arguing with her, fighting with her, you start giving to the relationship, you start behaving almost as if you're a different man, yeah, naturally she's going to start to see, I need to figure out what type of man this is now, because it's not adding up. So she's going to close herself off emotionally, and she'll withhold a bit to see how you behave. Are you weak? Hopefully you're not. That's basically what it is. And if you go back to being masculine and stop acting like a little boy, she'll stop having those digs at you, right? But there will always be respectful. That's very important to understand, because disrespect, which is what I know more so where you're coming from, because that's what most guys think when they think of a shit test, like it's disrespectful.
Yeah.
Right? Because respect is when you show admiration for someone's qualities, right? You have a high opinion of them, you honor them, you reverence them. But disrespect is when you fail to acknowledge another person's worth, or you withhold the love that you should give to them, or you actively insult them and bring them down. That is not how a woman should ever treat you. So if a woman is giving you disrespectful behavior, for example, there is a pattern of insults, comparing you, using hurtful words, she's threatening you, blackmail, revenge, breakup, manipulating you, right? Gaslighting, withholding, blaming you, lying to you, giving you the silent treatment, the cold shoulder, because she's upset at you. That's not a test. That's just blatant disrespect. That's a godless woman that does not or has not yet learned how to communicate. And when it comes to that, you can only beat that through love and patience, and forgiveness and daily love, if you're willing to put up with that. Okay? So when you're talking about testing, initially speaking, she's just going to get to know you, ask questions, be flirty, tease you a little bit. How does she respond to that? The same way you would talk to a girl. You may tease her or something, and she's like, don't talk to me that way. Oh, how dare you think that about women? Yeah, she's a feminist. Good riddance, right? A woman will do the same. She might ask you, what are your thoughts on sleeping around on a first interaction? And if the guy's red pill, he's going to say, because he's trying to be cool, yeah, I think you can do what you want with anyone. And she's like, well, I think that's disgusting. She just figured out who he was. Now, if the guy's fake, what's he going to do? Oh, well, I actually disagree. I think, yeah, I agree with you. You should wait until marriage. She's disqualified. But that's the same way you would do it to a woman. What's your body count? 20. Adios, mate. Right? It's that simple. So initially, most women, they're going to ask questions. They're going to observe your behavior to see, are you who you say you are? But only when you start showing weakness or lustful behavior that is not characteristic of a godly man, you start being almost immoral, you could say. That's when the prods start to happen. Oh, you always be very sensitive. Oh, you're always a little bit jumpy, because she's trying to see, is he? Because if you are jumpy, what are you going to do? I'm not jumpy. Why would you think that of me? And then you get more and more emotional. That's it. But if you actually go back to loving her properly and stop making those little mistakes that you're making as a man in a relationship, you're not really going to see tests. You shouldn't. But the tests will come about in a relationship when you start making little mistakes, and she can use that to correct you. Because yes, a good woman, she's going to also help you be a better man, the same way you'll help her be a better woman, and you both encourage each other. So she's going to push you to be a better man, but she'll do all of that with love, mostly in a playful way. When you see it become disrespectful, either that's a woman that's really lost her self-control, or she's settled for you and she's godless. Because you shouldn't see disrespectful behavior, especially not at the beginning, because a lot of guys think, yeah, I'm texting this, just met this chick and she took 2 days to text me back. She's testing me. No, mate, she's not into you. Okay, she just doesn't want you. Yeah, I went on a date with her and she was on her phone all the time to see if I would call her out on bad behavior. She just didn't want you. That's, low interest, lack of desire is not a test. Abusive behavior is not a test. That's very important to be mindful of that. So when you're thinking shit tests, understand that's mostly coming from like a red pill lens, because these guys, they manipulate and insult women and attack them and do all these mind games. So they project that, and they attract women who do the same. Good women only test you initially to determine if you are righteous. And throughout a relationship, when you make mistakes, they'll call you out on it in a playful way to get you to step up. And that's it.
Christian, what are the 3 best things that you see in long-lasting relationships that make them stick together?
Good question. First and foremost, I would say mutual chemistry and compatibility. Chemistry meaning physical desire. You should both find each other really attractive. As I said initially, beginning of the recording, you're her type, and vice versa. You look at her and you see a 10 out of 10. She looks at you and sees a 10 out of 10. That way, when you're together, you want to be close. You want to hold hands. You want to be physical. You can't take your eyes off of each other. You want to complement each other's external qualities. And a lot of Christians get it wrong and think that, biblically speaking, oh, this is inappropriate. wrong. You go through the whole book of Songs of Solomon. It's all about intimacy between a man and a woman. God made beauty, and God made men and women attracted to each other for a reason. Sex is for a husband and wife. It's used within that context. It's supposed to bring you both closer. At the end of the day, why did you even get with each other in the first place? Because of desire. You're not going to want to be close to a woman you don't find attractive, right? Unless you settle or she settles. So you need to have mutual chemistry to even want to be close to each other. And then to actually deepen the emotional attraction, because again, you can have all the looks in the world, but if you both have nothing in common, you're just going to fight and argue and it's going to spiral. So mutual chemistry and mutual compatibility. Compatibility meaning alignment of belief system, values, and lifestyle. With your belief system, you both want marriage. You have the same culture. You agree on politics, on your faith, on how you're going to structure your lives. Values, what's important to each other, right? Loyalty, open communication, how you both represent each other, your roles, your boundaries with each other, right? And then, of course, your lifestyle. If you're sitting there at home, you're a homebody, and she's out clubbing on the weekends, sooner or later, that's going to cause problems. If you have a completely different diet, she's a vegan and you're not, you're going to start. So how Amos 3 verse 3 in the Bible says, how can two walk together unless they be agreed upon? You need compatibility to deepen the connection, because mutual chemistry, you find each other attractive. Mutual compatibility, you can get along and you can bond and relate to each other over the important things in life. That's necessary for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years together. Right? That's really important. So when you put those two together, now you have the two ingredients to build a lifelong commitment. Because when you lack one of those two, let's say you have all the looks, but you lack the values, you're fighting, arguing, trying to train, trying to fix each other, right? It doesn't work. If you have everything in common, but you've got one-sided attraction, one of them's into each other, this is when you see the guy spinning a wheel in a 10-year marriage. Let's have sex this month, Honey, I did all the chores today. Can we have sex today and all this crap? Or women complain about it too. My husband doesn't want to be intimate with me. My husband wants nothing to do with me anymore. He'd rather be with the boys than be with his wife. Problems that you cannot change because you don't have the right ingredients to bake the cake. So that's the first thing I would say. You need mutual chemistry and compatibility. Secondly is always courting, romancing each other. And that falls into quality time, one-on-one time together where you have fun with each other. Because love is playful and fun. And it goes off of the first one. Because you have mutual chemistry and compatibility, you want to be one-on-one. And when you keep having fun together, it's like your heart keeps beating blood around your body. It keeps it alive. You both love spending time together. It's fun, it's enjoyable. You miss each other when you're absent from each other's presence. Whether you're working that day, or you spend a few hours away, you yearn to reconnect because there's so much love there. It's enjoyable. It's the pleasure. It's the benefit of being one flesh. So that's the next thing. And thirdly, and finally, honest and open communication about absolutely everything. Over communicating. How are you feeling today? Giving all the little details about everything. Both of you consistently holding nothing back, being honest from the beginning, being very intentional with that. And if you put those three things together, you will build a healthy relationship that will last. That sustains it all.
Yeah, very good answer, man. Yeah. Have any of you boys, Jules, Zell, got any more questions for Christian? I think we ran through all that we said we were gonna ask. I think
Yeah.
Julian, do you have any more? No.
No, I think everything that I need to know, you explained very well.
I have one more question. One more. All right. It's how to set healthy boundaries with your girl. I feel like a lot of guys nowadays I think it's due to the fact that they just attract the wrong, like maybe toxic partners, and they don't even set boundaries to begin with, so they just get run over and manipulated and stuff. But how can we help guys to really like set those boundaries from the beginning? What would be your advice?
Well, first of all, understanding what a boundary is, what a boundary isn't. Boundaries are, biblically speaking, related to self-control. They're designed to protect us from immoral people, in this case, immoral women, who may perhaps wish to control you, abuse you. But also boundaries are there to limit your own selfishness and their selfishness and improve responsibility for each other's actions and words. So boundaries must be righteous in that sense, right? You need to maintain intimacy without violating each other and without violating each other's limitations and respecting each other's needs, right? Because if there is a pattern of bad behavior, you're going to lose trust. And from where you're coming from, Zal, very good point that a lot of guys get into with women that are toxic and such. For that reason, a lot of guys are scared to set boundaries because they're afraid it's going to push the girl away or make her lose interest. But in reality, setting boundaries will signal to a good woman that you have standards. Only women who have red flags or settle for you will violate your boundaries consistently. Because a good woman who sees a future with you is always going to be respectful towards you. Okay, Proverbs 31:12 says that a good woman does good to her husband all the days of his life and no harm. That's the standard. She's never going to harm you because she has pure intentions. So if there ever is harm, she has a bad day, misunderstanding, miscommunication, that's usually going to be it. So when it comes to setting boundaries, you have to examine the motive. What is the reason behind it? Is this going to help both of you improve your relationship and is it protecting you from bad women? Or are you doing this to punish and hurt? Because that's not why you should do it. Okay, you should never create a boundary to exploit a woman or I'm going to like really show her now that I'm the boss. You don't do it for that. You don't exploit or cause pain to her from a boundary, right? Because you want to outline the bad behavior so she knows how to improve from it. And this gives her a chance to take note of your standards and how you wish to be treated. And even when you communicate a boundary, it doesn't always guarantee it's going to be respected, only if she's right for you, right? So first things you'd have to do is define what behavior you're willing and not willing to accept from her. Secondly, define what the consequences are, whether you want to get a piece of paper or you do that when you're single, whatever happens to be, you sit down together and discuss that. And then you just have to communicate directly what that boundary is and what the consequence is. And obviously, finally, you enforce the boundary if the situation arises. Follow through with what you stated. And it could be different things. It could be you decline to talk about a subject or you cancel the date, for example, because of her bad behavior, for example. Or it could be you walk away from the conversation for a few minutes or an hour because you need to cool down from it until she apologizes or shows a change in the attitude, for example. It's whatever the situation that you've already defined, right? And even then, just because you put a boundary in place doesn't mean you end the relationship, right? But if she keeps violating the same thing over and over again and it gets worse, maybe you should consider it. But if she does cross a boundary one or few times, but shows a willingness to correct herself, and you can see that, you can continue on with her because no one's perfect. If you're married long enough, you might end up making a few mistakes yourself. You wouldn't want her to end it because of that, right? So be mindful of that too. And that's basically it.
Christian, amazing episode, bro. Amazing. Thank you so much for your time, man. That was a very good episode. I'm sure the people watching would have loved this one. I loved it, man.
It's a pleasure to be on.
It's a pleasure, man. We'll definitely get you back in the future for sure, for sure. And yeah, guys, like I said, go down into the description, check this man out, go subscribe to his YouTube channel if you don't know who he is already. And yeah, boys, have any of you got any closing words to end off the episode?
If there's anything else you guys want to discuss, any of the topics, we can.
I would just say follow Christian's advice. I think he has a lot of knowledge on it. So if any of you boys looking for that Proverbs 31 woman, then he's the guy.
Yeah, I'll send you guys the link. I also have a free community on the school platform. You guys can join. On that, we also have like a monthly group call, and you get access free access to the first 2 parts of my course as well. For those who join there as well, if they're interested in that.
Yeah, man, send me
Yeah,
through
that
the
would be
link,
awesome.
and I'll leave it in the description of this video as well if anybody watching wants to join as well, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Anything, I'll give you all the links. Yeah.
Yeah, all the links will be down below, all right? Just
We should definitely do a part 2 in the future.
sure.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Anytime.
Yeah.
for sure, for sure. All right, everybody, thank you all so much for watching. And with that being said, peace and God bless.